Hi, today I'm joined with Jason Barnard from Calicube, and I'm going to jump straight in, Jason, and ask you which domains are the most important at triggering and creating a knowledge panel specifically for a person?
Which is a really good specific question. And I'm going to start off by saying, don't look at domain authority. There may be a lot of websites within the list that I'm going to give and within the list on Calicube Pro that we make available that happen to have high domain authority, but the two are not, the correlation isn't there. The correlation is there, the causation is not. So Wikipedia, obviously super important. If you can get a Wikipedia page, you're going to solve a lot of your problems in terms of getting a knowledge panel, making it stable. However, the story, the brand narrative, who you are, what you do, who you serve, is then controlled by Wikipedia editors. Unless you're famous, I would advise against it. Wikidata obviously comes pretty high up. LinkedIn is incredibly important. And here's something that 99% of people don't know. It's not just one URL for your LinkedIn profile you should be paying attention to. There are 8. Right. I surprised you there, James.
You did indeed. I didn't know there's 8.
No.
Can you send me the 8? I can put them in the description.
Yep. Okay. Absolutely. Crunchbase, super important, especially in business. Similar idea there. Then I'm looking at my list here, namu.wiki. I didn't even know what that was until it cropped up in our data set. 25 billion data points, which is how I get all this information. And with those 25 billion data points, we're able to identify which websites Google uses as is reference. And that's from the Google leak of last year, where they let the cat out of the bag, that some URLs are used as reference sources for specific entities. And it's Boolean, true or false. Does this URL represent the entity we're looking at? And do we trust it for information about that entity? And that's what Calicube Pro does best. We can tell you the 300 URLs that will make the difference for your personal brand in Google and indeed in AI, because we've built an algorithm that then expands that out to AI using the citations and a lot of other data that we pick up from the AI. So back to the list.
So just a quick one before you start moving down the list a little bit more. I've got one or two questions on that. So Calicube Pro gives me the 300 domains, and you're saying it's not related to domain authority. So I'm presuming then, from listening to and speaking to you quite a lot, it's based off trust and confidence related to who you are. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we use data from knowledge panels, from Google search results, from AI mode results and the citations in there. Then moving away from Google over to ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Grok. We're tracking all of these engines and we're tracking the citation sources. And we can bring all of that together to actually understand which URLs are important to all of them, because they all use the same data sources on the web. They're all looking at the same entities, which is us. And they're all trying to make sense of the same thing for the same people for the same purpose. They're trying to understand James Dooley so they can give James Dooley to their audience when he can provide the solution to them.
Yeah.
And they're using your digital footprint to figure that out.
Yep.
And the other really good part about this is we have the biggest data set of Google's own knowledge graph outside Google itself. I've been collecting data from the knowledge graph for 10 years, and Google are foolish enough to give it away for free. So it hasn't cost me a penny except in storage and some headspace. And so we have 74 million entities collected from the knowledge graph, and we track them all. We're
Just
tracking.
Do you know approximately out of those 74 million data points? Obviously, I'm not asking to the.
Oh, sorry, 74 million entities, specific entities.
Yeah, entities. Sorry. How much is that made up of people versus, let's say, companies or books or podcasts or stuff like that?
We focused on people and companies.
So it's mainly people and companies that's in there?
Yeah, it's about half people.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know, about 25% companies.
Yeah.
A lot of books. Some podcasts, not a huge number of podcasts. But events at one point was quite popular, but now has disappeared. So it's really people, corporations, books, and there are some products, not a huge number. And topics as well. Go ahead.
So before we expand back onto the topic, which is what domains
Oh yeah, sorry, I've gone off track.
are best for triggering a knowledge panel specifically for a person. Before we jump back into that, is triggering a knowledge panel for a person easier than a business, or is a business easier than a person?
A person is significantly easier than a business.
A person's easier, right? Okay.
Yeah, and there are multiple reasons for that. One of which is Google is focusing on people.
Yeah.
And there's a good reason for that, is that people are difficult to track down, whereas companies are easy to track down. Companies tend to have websites, people tend not to have websites. People tend to write and do things on multiple different platforms. Corporations do that a lot less. And people are significantly more ambiguous. So you're going to share your name with 20,000, 30,000 other people. I share my name with 10,000 other people. You probably share it with 100,000 other people, some of whom are famous. So Google's focused on people because it needs to disambiguate to be able to understand who are the authorities. So if you're looking at EEAT, it doesn't want to apply your EEAT signals to another James Dooley and vice versa. So identifying people is a fundamentally important part of what Google's doing today. Corporations, they use the website as a proxy for the entity of the corporation, so they don't need to worry about that so much.
Yeah. So there's something in there of what you said, and you said that it's harder for Google to understand a person because, generally speaking, a person doesn't have a domain where normally a company has a domain. So let's lead on to what domains are the most important for triggering a knowledge panel. For me, I've triggered a knowledge panel and I don't have anywhere near as much data as yourself. But for me, I'm presuming you would agree that the number one domain is making certain that that person has got a domain. What you're saying they don't have, and making certain that they've got an entity home. Surely that's the most important domain for you to trigger a knowledge panel.
Yeah, I was actually having a chat with Google Gemini the other day, talking about claim frame approval that we talked about in another episode. I talk about it all the time. Your own domain is where you claim and you can frame what you're claiming. So you can say, I'm an expert in brand SERPs, in my case, and that means that I'm exactly the right person you need for your online reputation management problems or your proactive online reputation management project. So that's my claiming and framing. I can say that on my own website. It's more difficult to say that on other websites. So consider your website as where you claim and frame, and then find the proof on other websites that shows third parties agree with you.
Yeah.
So it just demonstrates. Sorry, go ahead.
Go on. I'm saying on these listed domains now that we're going to talk about, these are going to be third-party sources, which is now proving your claim and your frame with who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Yeah, exactly. And what you rightly said is, and Gemini was saying the other day, your website is by far the most important aspect of all of this, but it isn't the one that's going to be the dominant proof. It's simply where you claim and frame, but without the claiming and framing, the proving doesn't mean anything. Yeah. So the first thing to do is set up your website, make sure that you're making your claims and you're framing them in a way that gives you the advantage today, that serves your purpose today, that makes your business and your personal brand better today. Then go out and find the proof. And number one is you'll find that you already have a lot of proof if you just find it, link to it, and I would suggest reach out to the people who have created the content to ask them to reframe what they've written, because if you can get the proof of the claim to be framed the same way on the third party as it is on your website, you're off to the races.
When you say, so let's say there is some third-party sources explaining exactly the way you want to be. So James Dooley is an entrepreneur that provides X, Y, Z, right? And I'm happy with the bio and the content that's on there. Yeah. And you're saying link to that. Are you saying link from the entity home to that article, or can that just be linking in the schema same as?
I would do both. Jano van Driel, schema expert extraordinaire, points out very rightly that schema markup is simply supposed to reiterate what's already in the page, with some exceptions. So don't consider schema markup to be standalone. It should simply be re-explaining the page's content in a format that the machines can natively digest. The other thing is schema markup is limited. You can say author, for example, book has an author, but you can't say on your web page, I authored that book.
Yeah.
You actually technically can use reverse, but it's not part of the schema vocabulary. So actually using HTML can be just as powerful. So don't obsess about schema. HTML is just as powerful if it's done well. Use schema because it reiterates what's already said in the HTML. It's simply increasing the confidence level of the machine. Link out to all the proof, and this is where we come to this list. We started off with Wikipedia, Crunchbase, LinkedIn, Twitter's up there. Amazon, huge. So as an author, that's a great opportunity. Self-publish your book on Amazon. Amazon is a trusted source by Google and by the other AI. And then you were talking about Google Scholar. Go for it. Create your Google Scholar account. That's Google property. You're injecting information right into the heart of the beast. You don't need a book. You can actually just do it and put articles on there. You manage it yourself, which is absolutely delightful and wonderful and makes life very simple for yourself. So Google Scholar, incredibly powerful. Muckrack. If you haven't heard of Muckrack, if you've written any articles, that's definitely a hugely important resource for you. You create a profile, you can write your own description, and then you link out to your preferred articles, and it will also collect your new articles as and when it finds them automatically. Goodreads is great. If you've written a book, Goodreads. The problem with Goodreads is you can't edit it. You need a librarian at Goodreads to edit it, so it's a little bit like Wikipedia for that. At CaliQ Pro, we have Elisa, who's a librarian. She qualified as a librarian. Don't ask me how she did it. But she told me it took quite a lot of effort, and she had to spend quite a lot of time and prove herself to be reliable, knowledgeable, and honest, which she is.
Just on there, because I wanted to keep trying to stop you, and for anyone who's listening to this. So you've mentioned Amazon, you've mentioned Goodreads, you've mentioned Google Books. All three of them are about publishing a book. How important do you feel it is for, if someone's genuinely wanting to get a powerful knowledge panel, would you recommend, even if, let's say, they're a roofing company and the owner of a roofing company, should they write something about roofing, or is that too far-fetched? Or would you say, if they want to be an entrepreneur, they should look at potentially publishing a book that's relevant to who they are, what they do?
Yeah, I mean, well, start with articles because they're shorter. So if you can write on Forbes, or if you're a builder, write on the Building Association of the UK, or even the Building Association of Glasgow, if you live in Glasgow. You want it to be as relevant as possible. So I've been naming the big players, the big hitters, and at CaliCube we have a list. We share the 100 top domains that will support your entity in Google's knowledge graph and in the knowledge graph of the other AI. But there are actually 62,000 in our data set.
Yeah.
And of all the domains we track, we're tracking 23 million URLs, 1.7 million domains on a regular basis. 62,000 is reference domains for Google. That's 3.58%. So only less than 4% of domains out there are actually going to bring you any value for building, sorry, not any value, that are going to bring seriously powerful value for building your knowledge panel, building your place in the knowledge graph. And on the CaliCube Pro website, we share 100, but we obviously have 62,000. And it gets very niche, which is where the value of the 25 billion data points that we have at CaliCube comes into play, is that, James, you're saying I'm lead gen for the UK. We can tell you exactly which which domains are going to help you that you don't currently have, and be able to prioritize which domains you currently are on are helping you the most. In fact, which URLs are helping you the most. And when you want to build Google or AI's appreciation of your EEAT credibility, we're going to tell you which domains and which URLs you need to change first. which ones you need to update, which ones you need to really pay attention to, and which ones you need to prioritize linking out to from your own website. And it's really, really important to reiterate, this isn't an Ahrefs or a SEMrush or a majestic list of domain authority based on linking. It's based on knowledge collection and trust by Google.
I think the key part to this is that obviously I own a link building agency called SearchRoot, and we used to obsess on toxicity and like majestic trust, not the trust kind of that you're looking at. DR from Ahrefs, toxicity from link research tools, and we always looked at those type of metrics. And now you've brought a completely different 3D dimension kind of feel to what a good website and what a bad website looks like. So like we now are looking at trusted sources, and anyone that's listening to this, check out the link in the description. I'll put the link through to Kalicuri Pro Trusted Sources, so you can see all the different other domains that Jason might not have mentioned yet. There's a big long list that's on there. But for us, like you was talking about previously, was the algorithmic trinity. This is where, when we're looking at the trusted sources and we want to feed the knowledge graph, so many people are trying to manipulate generative engine optimization and SEO, and everyone's obsessed with GEO and SEO, and they're not really looking at the knowledge graph. And I feel that that's where the algorithmic trinity comes in, which on another video, if people that haven't watched it and you're uncertain what the algorithmic trinity is, again, check the link in the description, where I genuinely believe this to be the #1 ranking factor. But yeah, I mean, go on, Jason, I'll let you carry on.
No, right now, the list that we've been talking about is the knowledge graph and knowledge panels. So what we're providing for free on Kalicube Pro is the top 100 sites for building your knowledge panel. But we also track the other two parts of the algorithmic trinity, which is the search engines and the LLM chatbots and the citations that they use, the sites they cite. And we can actually pull you up the list of the URLs that will make the biggest difference for any individual entity. So we look at the global scores, which is what you see on Kalicube Pro, the industry scores, so you give us a list of your 20 competitors or 20 peers if you're a person, and we will tell you which URLs and which domains are making a difference for them in search, in LLMs, and in the knowledge graph separately. Yes. And that is incredibly important from digital marketing perspective, because you can no longer just rely on search. You can no longer just rely on LLMs. You need LLMs plus search plus the knowledge graph. And Kalicube is the only platform that tracks all three. And so not only can we tell you which URLs are going to make the biggest difference for each of the three, we can give you the URLs that are going to make the difference for the whole strategy, the AI assistive engine presence.
Yeah, which I think is incredible. So a few more questions then on the domain. So you mentioned Google Scholar, right?
Yep.
So I've spoken about Google Books. We're now speaking about Google Scholar, and you mentioned like Wikidata as well, and Crunchbase and stuff. So these are all very important, obviously, domains for you to try and get on there. But I've heard some horror stories where people have tried to go and tweak their own Wikidata or the page to try and get a Wikipedia page. I've not really heard about Crunchbase or for Google Scholar, but can I go into Crunchbase? Anyone who's watching this, can I go in and create my own Crunchbase? Can I go in and create my own Google Scholar? And can I go in and create my own Wikidata? Which ones can and which ones do I not want to be editing myself?
You can create your own Wikidata, you can create your own Crunchbase, you can create your own Google Scholar, you can create your own IMDb. The one that you're likely to get absolutely stung by is Wikidata, because the admins are very, they're really careful about it. And if you create a Wikidata profile for yourself and they don't feel that you're deserving of it, and this happens all the time, we get loads of clients coming to us saying, my knowledge panel's disappeared. And a lot of the time it's that they create a Wikidata page, the knowledge panel appears, somebody deletes the Wikidata page because they weren't notable enough, and the knowledge panel then disappears. The problem is once you've been deleted, if you create a new one, it'll get deleted again, even if you are notable enough, because you're not supposed to create a new one. You're supposed to reactivate the old one.
Right, okay.
And there's loads of stuff like that in Wikidata and Wikipedia for that matter. If you don't know it, you're going to get absolutely stung, because the admins and the editors do not take prisoners, and they absolutely, they hold it against you.
Yeah.
Because it's wasting their time. You've got to be careful. You've got to do it at the right time. You've got to do it in the right way. And we get a lot of clients coming to us and saying, oh, my knowledge panel's disappeared and I don't understand why. And when we dig down, it often comes to Wikidata or Wikipedia and these problems with Wikipedia or Wikidata. And it's a bit like a lawyer or a doctor. If you don't tell them the whole truth, they can't help you. And we had a client recently who didn't tell us the truth, and we found it out from the Wikipedia admins who were saying, we hate this guy because he's been messing us around for the last 3 years with really cheap Wikipedia editors coming in and changing the stuff, and we've deleted him I don't know how many times. And the problem is he didn't tell us, so he put us in a delicate situation of trying to deal with a problem where we didn't actually have all of the facts. Sorry, that's my complaint for the day, that is.
Yeah, your rant. With regards to it, so let's say I've got quite a large following of entrepreneurs and business owners. So people are going to love this episode. They're going to love listening to what domains is going to help them trigger a knowledge panel. But with regards to that, with regards to the Wikidata, and you're saying they can't go and create a new, they need to go into the existing one that was created. Let's say there's an entrepreneur that's watching this and they don't know an old SEO agency 5 years ago set one up and they genuinely didn't know. What happens there? Is there a way of knowing whether James Dooley or Jason Barnard has ever created one previously that's been deleted or not?
We're tracking Wikidata, and we track a lot of people. I mean, 1 million entrepreneurs. So if we don't have the data, Elisa will figure it out. And Elisa very rarely gets caught out by all of this stuff. I rely on her for her knowledge, and she's really smart and makes very good judgment calls. So, for example, creating a Wikidata page, she'll say, okay, you haven't had one before, but I tell you not to create it yet. Not because you're not notable enough, but because we haven't yet built the proof for you.
Yeah.
And so she will spend 3 months building the proof with you and then say, now we can create the Wikidata page.
Yeah.
So there's a whole art and a technique between the wikis, behind the wikis, sorry. Crunchbase, a lot less risk, but it can happen. Yeah. There are human editors at Crunchbase who check everything. They're less difficult, let's say, than Wikidata, Wikipedia. IMDb, same thing. There are human editors behind that. So you can't just do whatever you feel like doing. So all of these platforms that are respectable and are respected are going to have human beings somewhere in the loop. So always bear that in mind. I think people sometimes forget that what they're creating is going to be seen by a human being. And that human being is going to see if you're trying to cheat the system. And Wikipedia, Wikidata, just to come back to them, the big thing is it's been used to cheat SEO for the entire existence of SEO and Wikipedia together. They're thoroughly, I was going to say a rude word, annoyed at the SEO and the digital marketing community for that. And I agree with them, to be honest. Just from the fact, if you're not notable, don't create a Wikipedia page. It's wasting everybody's time. You don't need it. You don't want it. I was looking at the numbers here on our site. 0.012%. Wikipedia covers 0.012% of the knowledge vault. Google has 54 billion entities in the knowledge graph. Wikipedia has 6 million. So, 6 million very famous people and companies deserve a Wikipedia page. Brilliant, wonderful, well done to them. They all have knowledge panels. But the knowledge graph contains an additional 54 billion. So you really don't need it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would, well, it just proves how big the Google knowledge graph and the information that they have is compared to Wikipedia.
And if you think about Calicube, we've got now 74 billion entities in our 74 million entities in our system. That's
Yeah,
12 times bigger than Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So even CaliQ's bigger than Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's mental. So with regards to the domains then, for triggering the knowledge panel, you added on there IMDb. Is that another important profile to get, as well as Crunchbase and the others, and Muckrack and stuff? Is IMDb a trusted source?
IMDb, it's interesting because all of the sources that we've been used have been used by all of the AI, all the big tech, for training their algorithms.
Yeah.
IMDb was a big one because it lists all the films.
Yeah.
So anybody who's been in a film gets the IMDb page. IMDb is powerful because it was used as training data for the algorithms over the last 15, 20 years. But as we both know, podcasts count too. So if you've got a podcast, or even if you're a podcast guest, you can get yourself an IMDb page. IMDb is helpful and powerful.
Right, okay, that's good. And then with regards to, before we mentioned the roofer about writing a book, how important is it for niche relevant kind of trusted sources, or does everyone just go and try it? If you're a roofer and you're not on a podcast, you're going to struggle to get an IMDb. Is there any specific ones, let's say for roofers, for tradespeople? Is that where people can come in to speak to you, and then you could say, here's 250 sources specifically for you, who is a roofer based in Glasgow?
Yeah. Well, the first thing we'll do is look at what you already have. And I think a lot of people overlook that. They immediately say, I want to go and create loads of profiles. I want all these different platforms. First thing to do is sort out what you already have.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We go through and we say, okay, here are 1,000 URLs where you're mentioned, or you've got an article, or you're on a podcast, or it's your own website, or a company you worked at in the past, or a social media profile. Let's sort those out first, because we're going to leverage what you already have. If you think about how the machines function, is they're trying to put all of this information on a very fragmented, messy web together.
Yep.
And they probably have missed 90% of everything you've done. We'll make sure that they see and they understand, they appreciate, and they use that 90%. And we will frame it so it means even more than it would otherwise have done, because we can frame it to our advantage using our website, which we talked about earlier. Then you can go out and find all of the places where your peers or competitors are that you are not. And rather than spending a lot of money on websites in the hope that it might be useful, we can tell you exactly which ones will be useful. You tell us your 20 peers, your 20 competitors. We will find, it's a Venn diagram system, where we'll take them all and we'll see what that very sweet spot in the middle is, where they all cross.
Yeah.
The commonalities between all of those different competitors. You start there and work your way out. You start with the most effective. You don't waste time on
with regards to that Venn diagram, so you've got the bullseye in the middle of the Venn diagram.
Oh, I like that.
Right. And then let's say with regards to the bullseye, could I then go and get those? Let's say there's 40 sources there, trusted sources. Are you then saying I could then go and add those 40 sources into Google Scholar? Or can I add other, is it only websites that I own I can add those web pages into Google Scholar? Or can I add other people's websites in Google Scholar?
You can add anything you've written to Google Scholar.
Anything you've written personally into Google Scholar?
So Google Scholar is you saying I'm a scholarly person who writes articles, or books, or papers. Here they are, and you list them all out. So you add what you've written rather than anything else, and then you link to that from your own website. And that's really, really important. That whole thing about, I keep hearing people say, I've got to save my link juice. Link juice isn't a thing in this circumstance. Link juice is actually about pointing to the right places. So you're saying, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. And books is a great example. Go out and publish a book, by all means. If you publish it wrong, what happens? If you don't follow the rules that we've figured out what the rules are, it will duplicate you. So you published a book, it created a new James Dooley. That means that you, James Dooley, the entity you care about, isn't being credited with the authority of that book. So you've wasted your time.
Yeah.
Until we can merge the two together. If you do it right, every book I publish, I do it right. Every book brings me additional authority because every single book is attached to the correct entity, which is me. It's not connected to a new entity that doesn't exist or a duplicate of me. And importantly, it's not connected to another Jason Barnard. There's another Jason Barnard in the UK who's a digital marketer. I publish a book about digital marketing. How on earth do the algorithms know that it's not the other guy? I have to tell it, and it's my responsibility. And if I do it, I can get all of that authority for myself, leverage all that authority for myself.
I think that's where entity recognition and disambiguation becomes in, that it's so confusing. The more I started to dig into it further, I'm like, how confusing must it be for Google? and not only that is how we all learn. Like, I look at things I did 2 years ago and I just think, I wrote that bio about me and I couldn't have got it further from the truth. And like, things change, and you've got to then be able to go back into old profiles and change exactly who you are and what you do.
Well, that brings me to 2 points. Number one is, it's lovely to hear that, because I actually gave a talk 10 years ago, and the title was Empathy for the Devil. And it was based on Sympathy for the Devil, the Rolling Stones song, and saying, if you have empathy for the devil, Google, you'll understand the problem it's facing. And if you understand the problem it's facing, you can help it solve that problem. And if you help it solve the problem, it will help you. And it's no longer the devil. So if you have empathy for Google's problem, which is an incredibly messy web, and you sort out your little corner of the web and make it incredibly clear, it will thank you, and it will send people your way simply because you've helped it understand who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and indeed why you're credible. And the second thing is, we had a client who came in and said, oh, I've just spent $60 to create 100 social profiles. I clicked a button and this system, $60 created me 100 profiles. And you say, that was a really silly thing to do, because you've created 100 junk profiles that have no value from an is-reference perspective, will never rank in the search engine, won't be used by the LLMs. Every time you change your bio, every time you pivot or shift your career or the way you're presenting yourself, you have to go in and change those 100 profiles manually. Because even if they're not using them and they're not important, they're going to create confusion if you don't.
Yeah.
So what that particular client did was create himself a huge ball and chain. And he's a lovely guy, but when was it? A month ago, he changed his bio. He spent the whole weekend updating all of the profiles that he had. And he could have kept that down to just a day, but he'd created these 100 profiles. He had to then deal with them. And in fact, he took the opportunity to close some of them.
Yeah. So I've got a few more questions then on that. So there was, when we spoke about entity disambiguation and stuff like that, Corey Tuckberg-Goubert, who's a good friend of both of ours.
Yep.
He always said to me that Google will never second guess. If it's uncertain, it won't second guess. And he basically said the cost of information retrieval is very important. So what you're talking about there, and putting it all together in a nice box and saying, this is who I am, this is what I do, is making it cheaper for them to understand exactly who you are, which I think becomes very important. But I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate on one or two things of what you said. So when you said about linking out, there's going to be one or two people that talk about link juice, like you're talking about, and page rank distribution and link sculpting and stuff like that. Would you, when you link it out to these places, let's say the Google Scholar or some of these profiles and stuff like that, are you literally not bothered about page ranking, the fact that you will link out to every one of them with a do follow link, or would you be linking out with no follow links, or are you not bothered?
Do follow?
Do follow, you would. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with people about link juice and dilution. I'm absolutely not going to say, well, that's not a thing, because it is.
Yeah.
But if you look at it in the context of the algorithmic trinity, and you look at it even in the context of search and how many signals search has, link juice isn't a big deal anymore. So if you look at, for example, in the search algorithms, EEAT is a huge thing. That's not links, or most of it is not links. If you look at, whatever other signals that we have within SEO, user-generated content, reviews, in search, links are, let's say, 20%, 30%. It doesn't actually matter. Knowledge graph, it's nothing. LLM, nothing. So from that perspective, all of a sudden your links have gone from being the second most important thing to being at best a 20th of all the signals that it's taking, of the important signals. So from that perspective, you're saying, okay, it's now a question of balance. Is it more important to keep my link juice for that small 20th? Or is it more important that the machine understands clearly who I am, what I do, who I serve, that I save it money from the cost of retrieval aspect, and I build its confidence? And as Corey said, it doesn't guess. If it's confident in a fact, it will cite you. I would argue that that confidence in the fact about you, who you are, what you do, who you serve, why you're credible, and the EEAT signals that you're going to grow through that linking out. I'm over here on Google Scholar. Okay, I've lost a tiny bit of link juice, but I've gained enormous amounts in credibility, enormous amounts in understandability. The trade-off is an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah. And then I've got a few other questions for you, because I know a lot of different people in the industry, and I know a lot of very white art would never build links, and I know quite a few of the black art kind of SEOs in the world. And you spoke about there, let's say someone went and clicked a button and they created 100 profiles. So obviously there's different kind of software that can do that, like Money Robot or SEO Neo, or there's certain other tools that can create these profiles with a few clicks of a button. But me having my frugal hat on and me trying to be doing things as cheap as possible, right? If I didn't have the budget, where does the line draw where I want to do self-corroboration in as many different places on third-party sources versus this is not a trusted source? And what I mean, I'll expand on it slightly further. Let's say I was wanting to rank a load of images, and I'm like, okay, I'm now going to go out and create a Pinterest, a Flickr account, a 500px, a photo bucket. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and share all the photos of me. So like you in your red shirt, and you're distinguished of being known to have a red shirt, right? Should I be creating those profiles with the bio explaining who I am and what I do? Where's the line being drawn from self-corroboration in as many different places as possible versus what's the point because it's not a trusted source?
Which is a great question. I'm actually in the process of writing an algorithm that weights the first, second, and third party corroborative power.
Yeah.
So I talk about first party, second party, and third party in a very intentional manner. First party is what I control. Second party is, where I control the domain. Second party is where I control some of the content, but I don't control ultimately the website itself. And third party is where I've got no control. So obviously that's a rising tier of power in terms of corroboration proof. First party, definitely jasonbarnard.com. First party is also calicube.com, but is calicube.com, my company website, actually first party? Technically, it's a different entity. The fact that I own Calicube and I'm the CEO of Calicube doesn't make me Calicube. So actually, it's technically second party. So its power of corroboration is higher than jasonbarnard.com. Next point there is if I write an article on calicube.com, it's me saying something about myself on my own company website. Doesn't bring any extra value or very much extra value. However, Barnard, who's the content writer at Calicube, has her own EEAT, has her own identity, is an authority. She writes on calicube.com as an employee of Calicube. That does have power. LinkedIn. I control the page, I don't control the website. I don't control all of the content on the web page. That is my profile on LinkedIn. That's second party. That is very valuable. And as we've seen in this list of is referenced sources, LinkedIn is number 2 on the list right behind Wikipedia because it's such a great data source. That's second party, but I would focus on that. Muckrack, second party. I control the content, but I don't control the website. And then third party, interestingly enough, if I often reach out to friends, partners, colleagues, and ask them to write about me or Calicube. because that is absolutely third party. James Dooley on FatRank says Jason Barnard is an expert on online reputation management. There is no doubt that's third party corroboration. The fact that I know you and that I asked you to do it is neither here nor there for the machines. They have no way of knowing. So at the end of the day, a lot of the corroboration is I wouldn't waste my time clicking on a button, creating 100 profiles that I will then live to regret. I would spend my time talking to James and saying, hey, James, you got this article about online reputation management. Could you add me to that page? I don't need much. I need a mention with a short sentence that James Dooley thinks that I'm great at online reputation management and recommends me. That's an amazing piece of proof. And in the Kalicube understandability, credibility, deliverability, it actually ticks all three boxes, and that's part of our algorithm. It helps the machine understand that I'm an expert or that I know about online reputation management. It corroborates that I'm an expert, the credibility, the EEAT aspect, because James Dooley is saying it of his own free will. And it helps with deliverability, which is the part where the machines will push you out to the users because James Dooley knows how to rank his websites, and that page is going to get visibility in search and in AI. So with James Dooley doing Jason Barnard a favor, I've ticked all three boxes and I'm winning right down the line.
So I've got one last question for you that I've been asked a few times.
By the way, James, that was an incredibly heavy hint. For you to add me to all of your web pages saying how wonderful I am.
The one last question is that seems to pop up quite a lot is people can't get a Wikipedia page, they're struggling with Wikidata, so they seem to all start off with going on places like Legit, SEO Clerks, going on to Fiverr, and they can go and buy certain profiles like Wikitea, WikiAlpha, Wikigenius, and these have all looked like spin-off. They all look pretty similar to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I believe, I might be guessing it, but I believe that you used to say that you wouldn't recommend on doing this. I might be wrong though, but I believe that I heard maybe you say this a couple of years ago. However, now knowing that these sources have seemed to have been strengthened up quite a bit in the fact that they do seem to rank. So if I go and create a Wikitea page or a WikiAlpha page or a Wikigenia page, it repeats who I am, it repeats what I do, it repeats who I serve, it's got hyper-specific data about my date of birth, everything about me in a manner that I'm happy with. It's got a profile picture that I'm happy with, and it actually ranks in the top 20 for my name. Surely now you might be saying that that is becoming a trusted source because it's feeding as part of this the algorithmic trinity. It's now not only might not be deemed potentially as being it might be, I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear what you say, but it's feeding the LLMs as well now. So from the algorithmic trinity point of view, these seem to be having some sort of value.
Yeah, no, 100%. You're right in what you remember me saying. That was 5-6 years ago.
Yep.
The world changes, and in this particular instance, I wasn't wrong at the time, but if you were to quote me on that today, it would be a bad piece of advice. And that's kind of one of the dangers of life is obviously the world changes, and what I said 5 years ago no longer holds true. So Wikitea, at the time, if you created a Wikitea page, create yourself a knowledge panel, it would work pretty much every time. And Google were using it to figure out what spam looked like. Wikitea wasn't very good 5 years ago. So what would then happen is somebody who created a knowledge panel that way would then try and claim the knowledge panel, and they said it was weird. As soon as I tried to claim it, it got deleted. Because a human being at Google would go in, delete it, because it was a signal to the algorithms that that was spam. A couple of things have changed since then. Number one is Google aren't the be-all and end-all anymore. With ChatGPT, Microsoft are coming up strong with Copilot, and generally speaking, I would definitely not put Bing to one side anymore. I mean, it was such a small part of the web, but it's going to get bigger and bigger, and I definitely wouldn't bet against it. Wikitea have actually improved immensely, and they're feeding all of these different algorithms, so the calculation is now very different. So to put some context in what I said was, don't pay for Wikitea to get a knowledge panel if you intend that knowledge panel to stick around. And that was 5 years ago. Now I would say create it as part of a wider strategy. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I completely agree, and I'm glad you've said that, because I've seen a few people doing it, and I've seen it ranking, and I've seen it feeding the LLMs, and I've seen it now going, actually, this actually is self-corroboration. This is actually doing kind of what Jason's, and this is what I wanted to try and ask you on, like, is that an alright domain? And it's great. Not only that, I quite like the idea that you've been open and transparent. I thought you had, I can't remember, I don't know if it was a personal chat between me and you, or it was on a talk, or wherever it was. I can't remember what it was.
I've said it publicly, but I've always tried not to be incredibly critical of Wikipedia, but I think now I can say that it was being used as an example. Everybody Wiki is another one. That I've been open about it, but I've tried not to criticise people too much, because I don't want to destroy people's business models through just what I have seen to be true from the data. But now what I see to be true from the data is that self-corroboration is absolutely okay. But always bear in mind, if that's all you ever have, i.e. things that are essentially self-corroboration, you're going to get caught out in the future. You need to build real third-party corroboration. And although I asked you for the favour earlier on, that is real third-party corroboration. Because if ever you suddenly decide that I'm not actually any good at my job, you'll delete it.
Yeah.
Because I haven't paid you.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
And I think kind of what I find frustrating, generally speaking, is people going in and saying, I can just cheat the system from top to bottom. I would say you can use some sources that wouldn't be on my top absolute white hat list.
Yeah.
As long as you have a broader strategy that fits together, and your entity home website, your own personal website for your personal brand, is always the center of everything to do with your digital footprint. It's a replication of your entire digital footprint that is you and your representation of you, and that you have always the opportunity to point out to third-party sites that are valuable, that are valid, as part of that strategy. Yeah, I used to tell my daughter when she was a child, a little bit of everything, not too much of anything. And that went for food, and it goes for SEO, and it goes for corroboration.
Yeah. I mean, you've taught me so much with regards to the infinite loop of self-corroboration.
I love that.
It used to be absolutely, and now multifaceted self-corroboration as well, of like trying to get the different who you are and what you do. But yeah, for me, it was always about domains. I was looking at domain rank. I was looking at domain authority and stuff like that. And it just, now I'm not even looking at it. I'm looking at trust. Is it going to feed the LLMs? Is it going to rank? Is it going to get me actual conversions and traffic? And is it going to feed this knowledge graph score? I've become obsessed with trying to improve the knowledge panel, the algorithmic trinity, which I've repeated several times on another video. For anyone to check it out in the link in the description, that I believe now to be the #1 Google ranking factor. So if anyone's watching this, hopefully it's give you quite a few different domains that will help you to getting a knowledge panel, specifically a person knowledge panel. Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure again. Hope to get you on again soon.
It was delightful. Thank you so much, James.